In this video, we're going to go through some of the new updates that came out as part of Power BI's November 2023 update, including the new button slicer, the new reference labels, as well as some new updates with the CoPilot feature in Power BI. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Fernan, and welcome to the Solutions Abroad YouTube channel, where we cover tips, tricks, and best practices when working with Power BI. I upload new videos every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when a new one is out. So Power BI this month came out with tons of really cool features that I really want to cover individually in their own videos, starting with the new button slicer. So the new slicer visual is now available for you if you're updated to the latest version, the November 2023 version of Power BI Desktop. And basically, it's a more customizable version of the default slicer visual in Power BI, similar to how the card and the new card visual is at the moment. So with the blog post, they added sort of how you could potentially look at using the new slicer visualization and kind of compares it to the previous version or the current version that we have. And I know, and I can say this from my experience, the current way that you can have sort of horizontal slicers within Power BI is not very customizable. The one that you can see on the left hand side here, the tile slicer, if you want to do some customization here, like even changing colors on what is selected, can't even do that. Now the comparison to that is the new button slicer on the right hand side, which as you can see gives you a ton more ways to customize your button slicers. You can add things like add images or maybe add subtitles, which I can see here. You can customize the different colors of what is selected or what is deselected, and even some subtle things like being able to adjust the padding or even add rounded corners, which I think gives users a lot more flexibility when it comes to designing their reports. I think this feature is really cool, and I'm really excited to try and cover it on a separate video by itself, just so that I can play around with it and see where the limitations are with this new feature. The next one is the ability to add reference labels to the cards that you have using the new card visual. So reference labels, as you can see here, is the kind of the extra insights that you can add to your KPI cards to kind of add some more context to what you're actually showing. You might want to show if the number that they're seeing is good or bad, or maybe show some kind of quick trends to see, let's say, how the value is performing compared to last month or last year. So not so long ago, we were trying to kind of find different ways to create something like this. So the feature before was the ability to add subtitles, which, gave us a lot more ways to add, further insights or even references into our KPI cards. So we would use it to show variance or even percentage change. But now we can still do that, but now we can do that officially and much easier using the reference labels. So here, as you can see in this example, again, they're comparing a visual that we currently use or we currently have, which is the multi-row cards. And you typically want to use this if you, like, let's say, want to show other dimensions as KPIs. So as you can see, instead of using the multi-row card, you can achieve the same thing, and in fact in an even better way using the reference labels. A couple of things that stick out to me in these reference labels is that it looks like you can add multiple reference labels. So if you want to add multiple insights, more than 2, you can add that, and it looks like you can even use or customize the colors and how they are being shown on the details. So using colors is very typical when you want to use or show status or progress on your cards, and being able to add and customize that in your reference labels gives you a lot of flexibility in sort of what story you're trying to tell. So CoPilot can now be used to add suggestions in your Q&A analysis. So Q&A is a feature that I covered a while ago, and it's essentially a feature that lets you ask your questions to your data in natural language, similar to how you enter prompts in, say, ChatGPT. The difference is that Q&A was built a long time ago, before all of these AI models, which it works because it relies on kind of the pre-built synonyms that you've created in your data models and trying to match or what is best fit with what the questions you're trying to ask based on the synonyms that you've put on your model. So now it looks like from this month's updates, you can now enable CoPilot with your synonyms to give you some better suggestions. So basically what it will do is it will use AI to find synonyms for questions or terms that you haven't previously set up before. Q&A will still prioritize any synonyms or terms that you have set up. However, if you haven't set them up, you can use CoPilot to help find those suggestions using artificial intelligence. If you're using this feature, just be aware that because it's using CoPilot and it's using some artificial intelligence, if you're outside of the US, like in Europe, for example, you will need to make sure to enable that option in your Power BI service. The feature that lets Power BI to send your data to US data centers to process it, which could be a potential drawback to this if you're using CoPilot. Also, another thing to be aware of is that this feature is currently a preview feature. So they've even warned us from the blog posts that you may have or may get some incomplete results if you send multiple queries in a short amount of time. On-object interaction now has a new option to always open a new pane. So this is something that you can toggle from the ribbon menu on the top or from the settings menu, and basically it changes the pane behavior and how you work with the pane switcher. So previously, when you use on-object interaction and you have multiple selection options for panes on the right hand side, if you click one pane at a time, it will activate that pane and basically hide the previous pane. So essentially you can only have, or you would only be working with one pane at a time. Now it looks like from a lot of the feedback from the community around how the pane switcher works, they have enabled this toggle, which allows you to basically just have that option to work by default. So now, instead of having one pane at a time, if you enable this, when you click a new pane from that pane switcher, it will create a stack of your pane without closing the one that you are currently active on, which is similar to how it used to work. Azure Maps now aggregates data points with the same geolocation. So apparently before, if you had 2 points in the same or roughly the same geographical location, instead of kind of aggregating these 2 points, it kind of just overlaps on top of each other, which is not really the intended way for you to see them in a map. So now they've fixed that, and that now kind of aggregates, which you can control yourself to show it in the map for you. So as you can see here in this example, if you have multiple points in the same location, it now sort of aggregates and groups those values for you. Next, we're coming back to CoPilot once again, because there's a few updates around CoPilot with Power BI. So again, in this case, there is this new narrative with CoPilot visual, which is essentially what was previously known as the Smart Narratives visual. So it's a rebrand of the Smart Narratives visual, but at the same time, it looks like they have kind of updated it, which gives it a lot more new features than it previously did before. So the first new thing from this narratives with CoPilot is that it now lets you write prompts. So you can name or write what you want to see or what you want to analyze using kind of natural language. It also gives you some examples of sort of what prompts you could use. So give an executive summary or create a bulleted list of highlights, which is the typical questions that you might want to see or answer. And from here, it looks like you even have control over which visuals you want to analyze. So if you have multiple visuals in your page and you just want to analyze a certain part of it, you can choose which visuals you want to analyze from this selection. So this is really useful if you want to do some in-depth analysis or very specific analysis in certain aspects of your report, but not the whole report. And essentially, like before, what it will do is it will generate you that result or that analysis in a dynamic text format. It will create those analysis and insights in natural language, which is something that is very user-friendly to read. And what's great about this feature is that it works similarly to the Smart Narratives visual before, which means that it's also affected by filters filters. So as you slice and dice your data within your report pages, the insights within the narratives also changes with it. I'm sure you've noticed this change already, but datasets have now been renamed to semantic models. Now, it's not such a big deal, and I think it's very descriptive to what datasets actually are, because it contains more than just the dataset. So it has, your model, your relationships, your translations. So just be aware that when you're looking for the type of item in Power BI service, you won't find datasets anymore. It's just been renamed to semantic model. There's a new DAX Query View that you can use to create or evaluate DAX expressions, which I think is a really cool addition to the tools that you have to work with. So it's an option that you will have on the left hand side, along with the report view, the data view, and the model view. Now you will have this DAX view that lets you evaluate and test your DAX calculations. So this query, and you can see from this blog post, lets you write DAX queries, it lets you preview your results, and you can even do some basic formatting tools like commenting, searching key terms, or replacing terms, which is what you would expect from kind of a coding IDE. Or this new addition is really cool because it kind of removes the need for you to kind of write or beautify your DAX codes using third-party tools like DAX editor or other third-party tools. You can just do them all, or at least you'd be able to do the majority of them using this DAX view. So with the editing your data model in the Power BI service, you can now mark your date tables in there. So it's a feature that you can do in the Power BI desktop, and now you can do it from the Power BI service as well. Along with this update, you can now also rename and delete tables and columns with the editing your data model in the Power BI service, which was a little bit annoying when it first came out, but now you can do it, which is what you would expect as if you're working in the Power BI desktop. So they've released a new feature in the service called Explore, which lets users explore their own data sets without needing to create, their own Power BI reports. So from the service, it looks like you can just simply go to one of the semantic models and click Explore this data. From there, they can select, whichever data they want to analyze, put it in the matrix or visual pair, and then save this exploration as its own item within the Power BI service. What's really interesting about this feature is that because you're saving this exploration, it's essentially a new item in the Power BI service. So you can set its own kind of sensitivity or even share it to other users in your organization. CoPilot for Power BI is now in public preview. So it's a feature that was showcased in the most recent Microsoft event, and it's basically a pane that you have available for you if you're using Fabric on the right-hand side of the screen. So the CoPilot works similar to how ChatGPT works. So you will have the pane on the right. You can create prompts to ask what kind of analysis you want to create, and it will essentially create a Power BI report for you. So just one note that if you want to use CoPilot for Power BI is that there is a limitation on who can use this. So here it says that you need to have a workspace that has a P1 or higher or F64 or higher capacity to use this CoPilot feature. Import mode semantic models can now be integrated into OneLake. So basically, when you have semantic models published into the service, you will now have this option to integrate the semantic model into OneLake. And the reason that you might want to do that is you might want to let other users or your business use the data that you've already modeled or worked on. And you might want to give them the ability to analyze it using their own reporting tools. And OneLake kind of facilitates or gives you the ability to do so. There are other benefits to using this feature, so I'll try to cover it in one of my future videos. But just a quick note that if you want to use this feature, it's currently limited to premium users only. For any reports that you have published in the Power BI service, you now have the ability to show any of these charts as tables. So it's now a preview feature that is available, and I've tested it myself. So how it works is that if you have visuals like line charts or bar charts that you're showing as a visual visual. If you want to see the actual values of those numbers in a tabled format, you can export it, or you can now have just this toggle that lets you see those actual values as tables. So here we're looking at an example. If you select that option, show visuals as tables, it will just simply toggle those visuals and change them into tables, letting you see the numbers that drive those charts that you're seeing. So you can use Ctrl+Shift+F11 to toggle between these two views, or use the drop-down option from the ribbon. And that's really it for this video. Now, as usual, I say that I haven't really covered everything, and I truly haven't covered everything that was released in the November update. I only really covered just the ones that I was super interested in. So if you want to read more about the other things that came out as part of the November updates, I'll leave a link to the full blog post in the description box below. Thanks for watching. As usual, give this video a like if you found it useful. Give it a dislike if you didn't, so to do better for next time. Ask your questions in the comment section box below so I can help you and you can help others. If you like this video, we have a Patreon page where you can support the channel and get exclusive perks like early access, demo files, and credits at the end of these videos. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.